Is the European Union standing alone as a unique beacon of political and economic union, or does it have a contender on the global stage? Enter BRICS, the alliance of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a coalition expanding and diversifying with the recent addition of 5 more countries: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, Egypt, and the UAE, transforming it into BRICS Plus. This expansion has sparked discussions about BRICS Plus's burgeoning influence, rivaling the European Union's. We'll delve into the dynamics of the original BRICS nations, their collective might against the EU, the implications of the new BRICS Plus configuration, and what the future may hold for this alliance. But before we head forward, please give a quick like to this video and click on the subscribe button with the notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Welcome to Economics and More, where we power up your understanding of the global economy. Without further ado, let's get started. The term BRICS was coined in 2001 by Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs, predicting that Brazil, India, Russia, and China would become emerging economies within decades. With South Africa's entry in 2010, BRICS took its complete form. Through annual summits, these nations aim to foster political and financial solidarity, positioning themselves as an alternative to the Western-centric world order predominantly led by the United States and the European Union. So, is BRICS overshadowing the EU as a global powerhouse? We don't think so. Despite appearances, BRICS and the EU serve very different roles on the world stage. Let's dive into why we believe the EU holds a stronger position of influence and integration using 3 key areas for comparison. First up, geography. Sure, BRICS has expanded, but let's focus on the foundational 5 for now, with the promise to explore the full BRICS sub-lineup later. At a glance, BRICS seems formidable, covering almost 40 million square kilometers across several continents, accounting for over a quarter of Earth's land. In contrast, Europe's EU spans just over 4 million square kilometers. The original BRICS countries are home to over 3.3 billion people, about 42% of the global population. This dwarfs the EU's sizable population of over 440 million. When it comes to natural resources, BRICS seems to retake the lead. Russia boasts vast natural gas reserves, Brazil is the custodian of the Amazon rainforest, and China sits atop critical reserves of rare earth minerals. At first glance, it appears BRICS outmatches the EU, but the comparison could be more complex. Geographically, BRICS countries are sprawling, stretching over immense distances that can complicate logistics and communication. In contrast, the EU's nations are relatively compact. Goods can travel from Spain to France within a day, and a quick flight can whisk you from Brussels to Rome in just 2 hours. Even the EU's farthest points, from Lisbon to Nicosia, are only about a 7-hour flight apart. In the BRICS bloc, distances are more daunting. Moscow and Beijing, though neighbors, are separated by roughly 5,700 kilometers. Brazil, in the southern hemisphere, and South Africa, at the base of the African continent, are even further isolated from their Asian partners. The EU, however, has a trump card: the single market and the Schengen area. These agreements allow for the seamless flow of goods, capital, and people across borders, a feat that geographically dispersed BRICS cannot easily replicate. While the physical journey from Brazil to India might be lengthy, the bureaucratic journey upon arrival is even more cumbersome thanks to the absence of such unified movement agreements within BRICS. While both blocs have strengths and weaknesses, the EU's geographic proximity and integrated policies foster a more cohesive and efficient union. The ease of movement and streamlined regulations within the EU enhance economic activities and forge a stronger bond among member states, underscoring the advantages of tight land borders and shared governance frameworks over mere size and resource wealth. When it comes to economic might, the BRICS bloc, comprising the original 5 nations, casts a long shadow over the European Union. Crunching the numbers reveals that BRICS boasts a combined GDP of $25.9 trillion, towering over the EU's $16.7 trillion. Growth rates within BRICS further highlight the disparity, with India leading the charge at an impressive 6.3% annually and Brazil experiencing consistent growth, albeit at a slowing pace of 3%. In contrast, the EU's growth rates are more modest, generally hovering around 2 to 2.5%, with Ireland being the standout, surging ahead at a 5.6% growth rate. However, a deeper dive into the BRICS economies reveals significant imbalances. China is the heavyweight, contributing $18 trillion to the bloc's GDP, which overshadows the economic outputs of its partners. South Africa's economy at $400 billion and Russia's, comparable to Italy's, paint a picture of uneven economic distribution within BRICS. Russia's position is remarkably nuanced, bearing the brunt of Western sanctions linked to its actions in Ukraine. The EU presents a more equitable economic landscape. While powerhouses like France, Germany, Italy, and Spain lead, Eastern European members are rapidly catching up, supported by the redistributive mechanisms of the EU budget. This financial solidarity allows lagging economies to accelerate their growth, a luxury BRICS nations lack. Each country navigates its economic path independently in the BRICS without the collective financial support system that characterizes the EU. And let's not overlook the significant political unity within the EU, starkly contrasting with the BRICS. While the euro strengthens economic bonds among EU nations, enabling uniform trade and financial stability, the BRICS group lacks a singular currency and thus a comparable level of economic integration. Discussions of a common BRICS currency have yet to materialize into tangible outcomes, underscoring their divergent economic pathways. Moreover, BRICS countries typically pursue individual international agreements and set their own tariffs, in contrast to the EU's collective bargaining power that has secured trade deals with countries like the United States, Japan, and Australia. This unified approach ensures that goods entering any EU country face consistent tariffs, a unified strategy that BRICS hasn't replicated. This divergence extends into the political realm, raising questions about the depth of camaraderie and cooperation among BRICS nations compared to the EU's consolidated and synchronized political stance. Within the BRICS group, a collection of nations marked by their distinct economies, cultures, and geopolitical ambitions, unity can sometimes seem more like an aspiration rather than a reality. Clashes are not uncommon, highlighted by the ongoing tension between India and China over Kashmir. India's stance on global issues also illustrates the group's fragmentation. Its muted response to Russia's actions in Ukraine and a shift away from Russian imports in favor of the US, France, and Israel showcase a drift in alliances. Further complicated BRICS cohesion, the 2023 Johannesburg summit saw Russian President Vladimir Putin participate only through video link due to South Africa's obligations to the International Criminal Court. This could have led to Putin's arrest on South African ground. This incident shows the challenges facing BRICS in presenting a unified front on the world stage, even as the bloc continues to expand rapidly. With the addition of Iran, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, Egypt, and the UAE to the BRICS Assembly in January, transforming it into BRICS Plus, and a staggering 14 countries lined up for potential membership, the group's evolution is impossible to ignore. This expansion reshapes BRICS in every dimension. Geographic spread, population, and economic might have all surged. Specifically, the collective GDP has leaped from $25.9 to $28.6 trillion, marking over a 10% growth. When pitted against the European Union, the burgeoning might of BRICS Plus casts a long shadow, hinting at its escalating prominence and clout on the global stage. However, with greater size comes the potential for increased internal divergence. While the EU grapples with its share of internal disagreements, it exhibits a relatively unified front, especially in its robust collective stance against Russia's aggression in Ukraine. The EU's structure as a supranational entity enables a concerted approach in international matters, with member states willingly ceding some autonomy for amplified collective influence. This unity is evidenced by significant global figures addressing the European Parliament, underlining the EU's cohesive representation. Conversely, BRICS, even in its expanded BRICS Plus format, remains an international platform without centralized authority where member states hold onto their sovereignty entirely. This framework facilitates dialogue and potential collaboration among the leaders, but lacks the capacity for collective action inherent to the EU's model. The complexity within BRICS makes it more akin to the G7 than the European Union. The G7, representing the top economies propelling the liberal world order and including heavyweights like the United States, the UK, and Japan, overshadows BRICS with a combined GDP of $51.6 trillion. This comparison might unsettle BRICS enthusiasts, highlighting the significant economic gap between these blocs. Yet, it is clear BRICS Plus operates on a different wavelength from the EU and even NATO, raising a pivotal question. Should it aspire to resemble these Western alliances? Despite its merits, the EU contends with its own share of challenges, including democratic deficits, the tussle between national sovereignty and deeper integration, and the notable exit of a member state recently. NATO too isn't immune to critique, facing scrutiny over its expansion and relevance today. In contrast, BRICS Plus is an informal group of states dedicated to championing emerging economies. Its agenda focuses on enhancing international trade, advocating for more inclusive global governance, and supporting nations under sanctions like Russia and Iran. This divergent approach by BRICS Plus doesn't necessarily set it against the West. At the latest summit, Brazilian President Lula da Silva clarified, "We do not want to be a counterpoint to the G7, G20, or the United States. We just want to organize ourselves." Such a stance shows the importance of the EU actively engaging with BRICS nations. Promoting their involvement in key global institutions and decision-making processes is essential. Without this collaborative spirit, the burgeoning divide between these groups and the West could widen, altering the dynamics of international relations. But do you agree with our analysis? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, remember to hit like and subscribe with the notifications bell turned on so you can check out our future videos. Until next time, thanks for watching.